started managing performance and conducting evaluations. So here are two cartoons to demonstrate the importance of continual feedback, including that mid-year and end-of-year evaluation. Feedback should be given more than once a year. The performance management process should be a dialogue that happens throughout the year, not just at evaluation time. So as you can see from this first cartoon, the manager says, here's your annual performance review, Tina. I focused on your performance for the past 2 weeks because I don't remember anything farther back. And Tina says, I was on vacation for the past 2 weeks. So a common issue is that supervisors only focus on current performance rather than the entire evaluation period. So the mid-year evaluation really ensures that you're getting feedback more frequently. And for those of you just joining us, if you don't mind muting your lines, please. I'm hearing a little background noise, so please make sure you're on mute. Thank you. So the second cartoon, the supervisor likes the annual performance review to do the annual ambush. So there's many reasons why supervisors don't give continual feedback. Giving employees negative feedback is hard. Employees can get angry, they can shut down. Sometimes it's easier just not to confront poor performance and hope it goes away. But unfortunately, that sends the wrong message to the poor performer, and even worse to the strong performers because it's demotivating. So we put together this presentation to give you an overview of why to do performance reviews, how to do the reviews, how to manage performance, and what traps to avoid. So as I mentioned, sometimes we have a hard time giving negative feedback. We don't want to hurt employees' feelings. We like to give employees second chances, which is great. But the flaw in that logic is that employees don't know there's something wrong with their performance unless we tell them. Employees want to do a good job. They want to be successful, and we're not doing them any favors by putting up with poor performance. So why do performance evaluations? It provides feedback. It creates an environment where employees expect feedback. Employees should know where they stand, and they should know what they need to do to turn their performance around and what would happen if they don't. And it gives employees a chance to change. Sometimes employees just need a wake-up call. And secondly, it drives productivity. It aligns the goals of the employee with the program goals. One of our best practices focus on results, and this should be included in the performance evaluation process. What results do we expect from our employees? Thirdly, it identifies employee aspirations and career planning. It helps support career planning decisions, so it gives employees feedback on how they can improve and how they can grow in their career. And it also communicates expectations. It puts you and your employee on the same page. So if you have clear expectations, it fosters commitment from that employee as well. And again, if you and the employer are on the same page, they'll be more committed, more loyal, more engaged. And managing performance also creates documentation for legal purposes to help us support decisions, but it shouldn't be the goal of performance management process, but rather the results. The goal should be based on our agency's best practices to support our employees' development, to support the employees in learning, growing, innovating, but we also do need the documentation should we need to terminate. So why do the self-evaluations? It engages the employees in the evaluation process. It gives the employee a voice so they can inform and shape their performance evaluation. And it's also their opportunity to brag about themselves. As you can see in this cartoon, this child's got a self-evaluation for Santa. And the self-evaluation also gives you as a supervisor a broader perspective. It gives you insight into the employee's performance and the employee's perception of their performance. It gets their side of the story. And it also flags the difference in perception before that evaluation meeting, before that sit-down meeting. It's inevitable that you as a supervisor and the employee have a different impression of their performance. So it's better to learn about that disconnect prior to sitting down for the performance discussion. An employee self-appraisal can help identify the differences in perception that might not surface otherwise. So it allows you as a supervisor to prepare appropriately for that evaluation meeting. And it promotes more effective discussion around performance, priority, challenges, etc. And it's human nature when something is important to us or it impacts us personally. Most of us find it easier to listen to someone else once we feel like we've been heard. So an employee self-assessment gives each employee that opportunity. They can provide their self-assessment along with any relevant background information first, which helps them hear the feedback you have to offer. And again, if there's any questions along the way, feel free to chat or unmute yourself. So that really covered the why the performance management process is important. So now we want to talk about how to do the performance management process. So when you hear the term performance management, people think that annual evaluation. But performance management really involves so much more. It should really represent a summary of an ongoing year-round dialogue. Focusing just on that annual review leads to misunderstanding. And then in that performance evaluation, you don't want to focus on the near term again. You want to review performance for the entire period. So this period is going to be, from August through December. And you want to keep records and take notes throughout the year to make sure that that evaluation reflects performance over that entire period. So here at BACR, we have 4 forms we use in the performance management process: the annual evaluation form, the mid-year evaluation form. And then we also have the performance discussion worksheet. So this is essentially our written warning. You can find this on the forms.bacr.org page. This is when you're having performance issues with an employee that you really feel is at the point it needs to be documented beyond beyond a verbal warning. And then we also have the action plan. So this is a document used to support employees with their performance, and it's a plan that sets out clear goals and deadlines of what you expect to see from the employees. We recommend using the action plan if you do an employee self-evaluation, an employee's evaluation, and there really is a lot of areas that needs improvement. You'd use this plan to come up with some clear goals and deadlines and when you expect to see the performance improve. And then in addition, verbal warnings should be documented as well. So you can either document them following up with an email to the employee or a text or your own notes in a notebook, sending an email to yourself, anything that you can write down that has the date and the time and the content of that conversation. So how you approach the performance discussion impacts how the employee responds to the feedback. So are you giving the employees examples? Specific examples provide clarity, helps the employee focus on future improvements and really understand what needs to change. Are you communicating what results are expected? And are you giving the employee an opportunity to respond? It's crucial that you as the supervisor listen to the employee's perspective and incorporate the employee's observations into future plans. And the employee might be experiencing roadblocks that you as a supervisor might not see. So it's really important you allow it to be a dialogue. And then if you're coming up with an improvement plan, is it realistic? Is it at appropriate timelines? Are there realistic goals? And are they achievable? And are you committed to helping the employee? Are you offering the resources they need? Any training, coaching, follow-up? We have a lot of online courses, as you know, through Safe Schools, but there is a lot of other training resources HR can help you research and find and can offer to you. So feel free to reach out if you do have an employee who needs additional coaching and training. So for the employee to be successful, the job description should be aligned with your expectation. It should communicate what you expect from the employee. This may seem obvious, but we want to make sure that the expectations are aligned with the job we hired them to do. And so we should be giving continuous feedback, not just negative. Give encouragement. Tell the employee when they're doing a good job. And then again, does the employee have the resources to be successful? And what are the expectations? What is the outcome you expect from the employee? And this is where the action plan is helpful to outline specific results you expect to see within a time frame. So we always recommend to keep a log of employee behavior and incident for all your staff. It'll help you objectively track performance, and it's really going to be helpful when you sit down to write that performance review. And it should reflect both the positive and the negative of each employee. So as you create this log, you want to be detailed, include the date and time, and don't be biased. You want to document the facts, not assumptions. So be brief but complete. You don't want to just say Jose's work was excellent, but Jose ensures that our students are treated with compassion and respect. He went above and beyond on X date by coordinating this team meeting. So you want to give really specific examples. So at this point, it's probably too late to start this for this year, but a good idea if you haven't been doing this to do this moving forward for the end of year evaluation. As things happen with employees, have a notebook and jot them down, send a text yourself, whatever is easiest for you. So moving on to what traps to avoid. So some mistakes that you make can really lower employee morale and performance, but it also could establish grounds for a potential lawsuit. So hopefully all of you attended the annual harassment training, but Jeff talked about biases. Don't let your personal feelings cloud your judgment. Be aware of your stereotypes, your personal feelings, and don't let it affect the performance feedback you're giving. So don't avoid tough performance discussions by rating your employees average. Show your strong performers that you deal with poor performance, and you also need to make it very clear to employees where they improve. And again, don't rely just on recent performance. Look at the entire evaluation period. And be objective. Don't compare employees to their peers. You should just compare them to the standard of performance, and always give examples. Write examples on the review form, but when possible, even have other examples available. If an employee is pushing back saying, well, that didn't happen, or the reason that happened is this, give another example. Focus on behaviors, not reasons. This is another important one. You don't want to say you were tardy 5 times because you're dropping your son at daycare, or you missed a lot of work because of your medical leave. Really focus on the behavior, the expectation. We expect you to be on time for work, not the reasons why the employee was late. Don't overrate to motivate. Some managers feel that employees will live up to an evaluation. If I tell her she's doing a great job, then maybe I'll give her the boost that she'll actually start doing a great job. Evaluations really should accurately reflect performance. This can also get you into legal hot water. And then evaluate performance, not attitude. You must use concrete evidence showing performance issues, not really what you perceive as an attitude problem. So we see this one a lot. You can always get away with saying you have a great attitude. No one's going to argue with it, a compliment. But saying you have a poor attitude really focuses more on personality and not performance. And maybe the employee does have a poor attitude. So really instead, you need to list examples of actual behavior that led you to that conclusion. So we gave some examples here of really how to document attitude. He's been involved in coworker conflicts that required third-party mediation. He needs to be prompted to stop daydreaming and engage in meetings. She's been involved in more than one public shouting match at work. And in addition, attitude can also be framed as professionalism. Explain to your employees what professionalism means and how to show it. And don't assume that your employees understand the components of professionalism. Your employees come from all walks of life. And a behavior one thinks is unprofessional may be perfectly acceptable for another. And unprofessionalism may be more common with younger generations. So this is a really great coaching opportunity for you as a supervisor. So finally, I want to review the evaluation form. So employees and supervisors use the same form for the self-evaluation and for the supervisor's evaluation. So the employee is going to fill out one copy and the supervisor is going to fill out another copy. It's going to be the same metrics we've used for last year. And these forms are after school specific, so there's a different form for each role, for line staff, for assistant coordinator, for coordinator. And as an employee, as you're doing the self-evaluation, include comments because that's your opportunity to brag about yourself, what you've completed this year. Your supervisor might not know all the great things you've been doing. And then as a supervisor evaluating your staff, give examples to back up your rating. Why am I rated an opportunity for growth? Give examples. Maybe it's because on X date I left 2 students unsupervised, or maybe I didn't do appropriate detailed attendance record. Give examples. It doesn't need to be long, but just give a time reference and a description that really validates why you're giving that rating. So employees should sign the evaluation form. Sometimes employees, especially when getting negative feedback, they might need a day or 2 to review it. So if they don't feel like signing the form right now, that's fine. Give them some time to think about it, but follow up. Make sure it gets signed. We want a signature. If the employee refuses to sign, ask them to write on the form what they disagree with. Just write down, I disagree with this rating and why, but then they really should sign saying that you did have this conversation. So this is a list of job competencies that might be helpful as you're writing your evaluation. Sometimes, since you have so many of these to do, it's time consuming coming up with the right words to describe. So this slide just gives some skills that might be helpful: dedication, problem solving, communication, quality of work, attention to detail, integrity, to help you really figure out what you're going to write in that in the example section. And these slides are also on the forms.bacr.org website, so you can access them all there. So we're starting right now, kicking off with this training, the evaluation period. So this is going through January. So employees are to complete their self-evaluation starting now, ending in December, and then you as supervisors need to write your evaluations and then have those conversations with the employee, get those signed reviews forms by February 3rd. For any employee who is having performance issues and we need to create an action plan, the deadline for that is also February 3rd. So as you are completing your evaluations and action plans, submit them to Mayela, Eva, and Shana by that deadline of February 3rd. And I find it really helpful to schedule those meetings with employees in advance. One, it keeps you all to a timeline and ensures that the employees are completing the self-evaluation in time, and then it holds you to your deadline as well to make sure you're completing your evaluation forms within the appropriate timeline. Again, complete all columns on the form, circle a rating, but also add your comments and examples. It does need to be submitted to HR, so you're going to be submitting those to Mayela, Eva, and Shana, who will be following up for any not turned in by that deadline. So as I mentioned, all these forms are on the forms.bacr website. So we've updated the after-school forms. They'll also be sent out via email. There's the slides from this presentation. We'll also post the recording. And then there's also performance evaluation rubric and steps. This is really helpful because it gives examples of what to write on the review, and it also defines those 3 different ratings. So that is everything I wanted to cover today. Are there any questions? Well, I appreciate your time. We have marked down your attendance. If you put your name in the attendee section, please feel free to reach out to HR. You can call me directly, or you can email somebody on the HR team at hr@bcr.org, and we'll be able to help you troubleshoot any specific employee issues. Thank you so much. Have a very nice day.
Thank you. Thank you.